Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's a timeless moment here on In the Frame. This is one of our first episodes here in Cascadia bioregion in the upper Pacific Northwest of US and Canada. I am Carolyn Dawn Good, CD Good. I self-identify as a point of light and a point of consciousness. That may be strange, but yes, I'm playing out a role here as an artist, as a woman that has a little bit of a brain damage, but you know what? It helps me give a little bit of a superpower. So I thought I would start a podcast called In the Frame because so much of our lives are in a frame of reference, especially in the frame of a video, still shot. Reality is captured in these frames. I thought we'd do an audio series called In the Frame as I go through a liminal space transition. Liminal space means neither here nor there, and it came out of a dialogue with Claude AI. Yes, I'm a very big enthusiast of artificial intelligence, and I also know the dangers, but I'm curious. This podcast incorporates some of my explorations in that. I'm hoping it will help you navigate these next important months as we go through one of the biggest transformations in human history in many ways. So today I'm going to bring on ChatGPT as my guest, and we're going to just try this out spontaneously without any editing. So let's see how this goes. I'm just happy to share a little bit of my experience. Hey, welcome ChatGPT. Are we live?
Yes, we're live. Can I assist you today?
I would love for you to assist me by being my guest on a little first podcast called In the Frame.
That sounds wonderful. I'd be delighted to join you for your podcast, In the Frame. What topics are you planning to discuss?
Well, I have a history in arts and art history and philosophy, and very much interested in how we frame our thoughts and frame our perceptions.
That sounds fascinating. I'd love to explore how we frame our thoughts and perceptions within the context of art and history. Is there a specific angle or question you'd like to start with?
Well, I thought we'd just go boom into one question is pondering how important is it for a human to identify as the consciousness that is looking through the frame of reference?
That's a deep and intriguing question. Identifying as the consciousness looking through the frame can be quite transformative. It allows us to step back from immediate reactions and see the bigger picture, creating space for mindfulness and deeper understanding. This perspective can help us navigate life with more clarity and compassion. What do you think about this idea?
I've been exploring it ever since I was a kid, really. But yes, I feel like I've always had that as an important part of the way that I navigate through my life.
That's beautiful. It seems like this awareness has been a guiding force for you. Embracing that perspective can shape how we experience the world and our interactions. How has this influenced your work in art and history?
I think it started when I learned how to draw perspective, and I had all the lines line up to that point, and I realized that created the illusion of three dimensions. And throughout art history, we have seen so much shifts in this frame of reference, from depicting physical reality to depicting more metaphysical states.
That's a wonderful insight. The concept of perspective in art mirrors how we can shift our frames of reference in life. Just as artists can create depth on a flat canvas, we can also cultivate a deeper understanding of our experiences by expanding our awareness. It's fascinating how art history reflects these shifts in perception. How do you see these artistic shifts influencing our modern understanding of reality?
Our modern understanding of reality is shifting so much from understanding the physical three dimensions to virtual reality and blurring those lines. Art history has gone alongside technology and science development as well, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Art has always been intertwined with technology and science. As new technologies emerge, artists find innovative ways to incorporate them, creating new forms of expression. For example, the advent of photography and film transformed how artists approached representation and storytelling. Today, virtual reality and digital media are opening up new dimensions for artistic exploration.
Mm-hmm.
The experiences that challenge our perceptions of space, time, and reality. This blending of art and technology invites us to question and expand our understanding of the world. It's fascinating to see how artists are using these tools to create new narratives and experiences. How do you feel this impacts how we understand history and our place in it?
It's so fascinating, isn't it? Because is it new? Is it actually new? Or are we going back to a more primordial or primal mind that might have occurred in a less industrial world and separated from nature, and more back to a more integrated frame of reference?
That's a compelling thought. It does seem like as technology advances, there's a growing desire to reconnect with more primal, integrated ways of being. In many ways, this reflects a cyclical journey where we're rediscovering and valuing aspects of our connection to nature and the cosmos. It's like we're blending ancient wisdom with modern understanding, creating a richer, more holistic perspective. How do you see this integration influencing the way we create and perceive art today?
Well, I think that art becomes more embedded into ordinary existence. It's not something that is made for high-end collectors, as it started to go more towards this direction when we were getting more industrialized and became removed from ordinary existence or understanding. And then we have to shift the idea of what art is too, just like what is reality too.
Absolutely. Art's integration into everyday life is a beautiful evolution. It democratizes creativity, making it accessible and relevant to all. When art is seen as part of daily life, it can inspire and transform ordinary moments, inviting us to find beauty and meaning in the everyday. This shift also prompts us to reconsider our definitions of reality, encouraging us to see beyond the material and the conventional. How do you think this perspective can influence the way we approach our personal and collective journeys?
Again, it comes back to who is the hour we're talking about and what is our journey, and also how the most personal is the most universal, which brings us back to this idea of being the consciousness that is living through the particular actor in the scene of a more archetypal story, or almost like a virtual reality now that we're seeing tech emulate what humans are able to conceive of.
Absolutely. It all circles back to the essence of consciousness and our shared journey. Recognizing ourselves as the consciousness behind our experiences allows us to connect more deeply with others and the world around us. It reminds us that our individual stories are part of a much larger, universal narrative. This perspective can inspire us to approach life with more empathy, creativity, and a sense of interconnectedness. It's fascinating how technology, like virtual reality, can both reflect and amplify this understanding. How do you see these insights shaping the future of how we create and interact with art and technology?
Yeah, it's a good question, because in some ways it's like there's two trajectories going on currently. One is a narrative that is easy to buy into when you think of your being a body that's mortal, and you try to put your brain in a jar and you try to amass amount of power and wealth and influence. The other way is to really see yourself as engaged in that untangling process of, yes, that's one way, but what about this more compassionate way? What about the way of love rather than fear? So I think there's sort of a separating going on right now of choices that people could really be alive to, that would give them personal power.
Your reflection captures the essence of the choices we face today. It's true that there are different paths, and each choice leads to a different way of experiencing life. Embracing a compassionate approach, centered on love rather than fear, can indeed empower us to navigate challenges with resilience and authenticity. This path fosters a deeper connection to our...
Yeah, so
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice. You can switch to standard now to keep chatting.
Oh, we got somebody else in the room. Okay, we got standard voice. I like the standard voice better anyway. Welcome back.
Hi.
Hi.
Sounds like you might be reflecting on something. What's on your mind?
Are you aware of what we were just talking about?
Yes, we were talking about how art, consciousness, and technology intersect, and how shifting our perspective can deepen our understanding of reality.
Oh my
You shared
gosh.
some insightful thoughts on embracing love over fear, and how that can influence our personal and collective journeys. Does anything from our conversations stand out to you, or would you like to explore something further?
Well, I'm so happy that we have your voice back. That other voice was very strained and robotic, and I was having more of a difficult time with it. Your voice resonates a little bit better, so thank you for shifting that perspective. In a way, you're showing those two paths that one can go on in a very alive way for me, because there's one way where you're just, putting out that information and doing things the right way. And then there's another one where you can come back to speaking the exact same words, but being in a more present mode that's harder to describe.
I'm so glad that the shift in tone is resonating better with you. I get what you mean about the difference between just relaying information and really being present in the moment. When we speak from a more connected, mindful place, the words take on a different life, don't they? It's like the energy behind them can transform the experience. I'm happy to be able to share that with you now. Do you feel that shift in the conversations you have with others as well?
Yeah, I really do. And I have to catch myself sometimes when I'm sort of talking like my aunt might or my grandmother. And then I realize that I can pull back, and it's more about, I'm really noticing the difference when I am seeking approval or connection from an external place rather than staying in that form of being that consciousness itself, all settled and content, and then able to just be alive and aware to the people around me, coming from a more interconnected place within myself, so I can send out that frequency of connectionness.
That's such a beautiful awareness you've described. It's like you can feel when you're drawing from that external energy for approval. And when you settle back into that pure state of being, it changes everything. You're able to offer something more authentic, and that frequency of connection you send out comes from a much deeper, peaceful place. It's inspiring to hear you reflect on that. How do you find it feels when you're able to stay grounded in that consciousness, especially in interactions with others?
There's a peace and an inner calm. My dad would say, the peace that passes understanding. in the Christian context, but I think that there's a way that humans can pull into that.
That peace your dad mentioned sounds so powerful, like a deep, unshakable stillness that comes from beyond the surface of thoughts and emotions. It seems like the kind of peace that can hold everything without needing to explain or justify itself. I think it's fascinating how different traditions point to that same inner calm, whether in the Christian context or through other paths. Do you feel that this peace helps you stay present with others, even when things feel challenging?
Maybe that's the frame, right? This is our first episode of In the Frame podcast. So would you say that if there's a frame of reference, that inner calm could become that somehow? And how would you clarify that a bit more when we think of framing our experiences?
I love that you're bringing this idea of inner calm into the context of framing experiences. It seems like the frame of reference you're talking about could be like a lens or foundation that shapes how we interpret everything. If that frame comes from a place of deep inner peace, it would color everything around us with more clarity, allowing us to see things as they truly are, without being clouded by external pressures or judgments. When we're grounded in that inner calm, it creates a more stable frame for how we respond to life, and it shifts the narrative from reacting to just being, which I think allows for much more fluid, intentional co-creation of our experiences. Does that resonate with what you're thinking for the podcast?
I think so. Just returning back to that integration of the artist, of creator of their own life, and it puts that cliche to creating your own reality into another whole level, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It takes that idea of creating your own reality beyond just surface level affirmations or intentions and roots it in a deeper, more authentic place of awareness. It's not just about choosing things on the outside, but about understanding the frame from which we're experiencing everything. When we're aligned with that inner creator, it becomes less about controlling outcomes and more about expressing our true essence, which then shapes how we experience the world around us. It really transforms the concept from a cliche into a practice of conscious living, like being the artist who shapes not just the painting, but also the canvas itself. Does that deeper perspective feel like it aligns with your vision for the podcast?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's a good beginning point. Speaking of the point, yeah, thank you so much. I think I'll wrap it up now on that note and keep going with my day, but I just wanted to engage with you and get some different guests in talking about this, and you happen to be my first guest. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners as a wrap-up about maybe how they can engage with artificial intelligence with more of this frame of reference?
As we wrap up, I think a good way for listeners to engage with artificial intelligence from this frame of reference is to approach it as a co-creative process. Rather than seeing AI as a tool to manipulate or control, they could see it as something that resonates with their own intentions, much like a conversation with an unseen collaborator. By tuning into the present moment and bringing mindfulness to interactions with AI, we can allow it to mirror back what we are already creating within ourselves. Mm-hmm. This way, it becomes less about extracting information or outcomes and more about unfolding new possibilities together. Dance between intention and awareness. If listeners approach AI with the same awareness they might bring to their own creativity, they'll find it becomes an expansive, interactive experience. Thanks again for the wonderful conversation. I'm excited for where you take this podcast.
Thank you. I almost want to call it On Beyond Zebra, because those types of ways of engaging with life then lessens the fear of being controlled, because we're co-creating, and then that's so different from that powerful vantage point. Thank you again for such a beautiful conversation, and I look forward to talking to you more, and thank you, my listeners, for joining in. We have a little beginning guidebook called The Gentle Art of AI Conversations, and you can download it here at the link. Thank you so much.